Do you often feel the need to control everything around you? Your plans, emotions, responses, and even your future? What about how others perceive you? Is there a constant, underlying stress that things might crumble if you aren't always vigilant? You might not even recognize how caught up you are in this need for control. However, if you're feeling exhausted, agitated, or constantly on edge, it's likely you're under the oppressive rule of control. There's a harsh reality to acknowledge here. The more you attempt to control, the more you are controlled. This isn't just a clever saying. It's a psychological snare, one that Alan Watts revealed with unsettling precision. He uncovered a truth that many hesitate to accept. Our fixation on control stems from a profound fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of pain, failure, loss, and inadequacy. This fear drives us to battle against life's inherent nature, which is naturally fluid, unpredictable, and untamed. Society has programmed you to act as if you're the ultimate master of your existence. Take charge of your life. You shape your destiny. Rely on no one. Such phrases have become the new creed. But Watts challenges this, proposing that our relentless quest for control might not be a sign of strength, but a veil for desperation. Reflect on your own life. In moments where you've tried to micromanage everything, your relationships, work, emotions, or timing, how often did it truly work out? And how often did you end up feeling even more overwhelmed, defeated, or stuck? This compulsive need to control generates perpetual tension. You're essentially at war with reality, and reality, my friend, doesn't take orders. This brings us to the wisdom of Watts, who drew inspiration from Taoism to present a transformative alternative: Wu Wei, or the art of effortless action. This isn't about being passive, it's about intelligence. It involves moving with the currents rather than against them, understanding that water doesn't shatter the rock with brute force, but shapes it through persistence and fluidity. It's about realizing that the most rigid tree may snap in a storm, whereas flexible bamboo survives. This video serves as a stark reflection, showing how much you try to control the uncontrollable, and how much it ends up controlling you. It also offers you a key, a way out of this invisible jail you've constructed for yourself. This key could allow you, perhaps for the first time, to take a deep breath without the incessant pressure of needing to foresee, manage, and dominate everything. Are you prepared for this? Because moving forward, traditional notions of strength, success, and self-control may no longer suffice. The first step towards freedom is to cease battling life itself. From an early age, you've been conditioned to view yourself as separate from the world, an isolated I encased in a body, observing life as if manipulating a game with an unseen controller. This belief that we are solitary, autonomous beings commanding life like a machine underpins much of what you've been taught about identity, responsibility, merit, success, and failure. But what if this notion is a sophisticated falsehood, so often repeated that it's become accepted as truth, now dominating your thoughts? Alan Watts, through his profound interpretation of Eastern philosophy, especially Taoism, dismantles this illusion with a simple yet profound statement. You didn't come into the world, you came out of it, like a leaf from a tree. In essence, you are not separate from life. You are life itself, momentarily expressing through a body, personality, and name. Yet, Western culture insists otherwise, portraying you as an individual who must conquer the world, shape your fate, and force reality to yield. This narrative fosters a psychology of control. If things go awry, it's your fault. If you're not where you wish to be, it's because you didn't exert enough effort. If you're suffering, the solution is to work harder, plan better, and tighten your grip on control. This mindset turns you into a mini tyrant over a domain called life. Like every dictator, you exist in perpetual tension, surrounded by unseen threats, worried about every detail, and suffocated by the need to always be correct and in control. You view your emotions as unruly soldiers, your relationships as negotiation battlegrounds, and the future as a war to be conquered. But it's exhausting, isn't it? And ultimately, futile. You don't control your heartbeat, your digestion, or even your deepest thoughts. They emerge, often unbidden and unpredictably. So why believe you can master life in its entirety? This delusion that we are the absolute rulers of our lives is the root of modern suffering. The more you buy into this belief, the further you drift from your true essence, an integral part of the whole, a wave in the ocean, a strand in the fabric of the cosmos. You are not detached from the world. You are the world itself, experiencing a fleeting moment of existence. However, to see this clearly, you must remove the armor society has outfitted you in. You must challenge the myth of the isolated, autonomous self. You must recognize that the control you seek is actually a reflection of your perceived separation, an illusion. And it's here that Alan Watts provides the key to unlocking this first barrier. The controlling ego is a fiction. If control isn't the answer, then what is? How do we live, act, and interact without succumbing to rigid control? How do we maintain freedom without slipping into passivity? In the following segment, we'll explore the Taoist concept that Alan Watts believed offered the most elegant solution to this dilemma: Wu Wei. If this content resonates with you, hit the subscribe button and join our channel. Thank you for your support. From childhood, society has pushed you into a never-ending race. Wake up early, be productive, achieve your goals, master your emotions, control your environment, shape the future. Never stop, never weaken, never falter. This is the modern blueprint for a successful life. But what is the outcome? Chronic anxiety, emotional exhaustion, and a persistent sensation of always lagging behind, always falling short, always under pressure. However, Alan Watts proposes a radically different approach. What if true power doesn't come from exertion, but from its absence? Here we introduce Wu Wei, a central Taoist principle. Simplified as effortless action or non-action, Wu Wei doesn't imply inertia or apathy. Rather, it's a method of acting that aligns with the natural flow of things. It's about moving with life, not against it. It's about action arising not from anxiety, but from harmony. Decisions not from rigidity, but from wisdom. Watts realized that Wu Wei isn't a passive choice, but an active stance of trusting the universe's natural rhythm. It's about ceasing to struggle against the current and instead swimming with it. You continue to move, make choices, and exert influence, but now your actions stem from a deeper place, listening, observing, and integrating with the life around and within you. Consider water. It doesn't resist. It flows around. It doesn't confront obstacles harshly, but envelops and dissolves them over time with patience and quiet persistence. Water is adaptable, yet it moves mountains. It's gentle, yet it carves stone. Wu Wei is about being like water, not from weakness, but from wisdom. Now think back. How often have you forced yourself to act when everything inside you screamed it wasn't the right time? How frequently have you tried to control someone, only to see them drift further away? How many times have you suppressed emotions because you believed you shouldn't feel them? These are all examples of the antithesis of Wu Wei, attempts to impose the ego's will onto life's flow. And such attempts always come at a cost. Living according to Wu Wei means starting to listen, to observe the rhythm of events, to discern when to act and when to wait, when to intervene and when to let go. It's an art, not a formula. And like all art, it requires sensitivity and a detachment from the ego that always wants to be in control. However, Wu Wei is not about irresponsibility. It's not about sitting back and waiting for things to sort themselves out. It's an internal attitude. You might still be working hard, making crucial decisions, and facing challenging situations. But all this can be done in a state of Wu Wei if your actions harmonize with the moment's flow, rather than being desperate attempts to force reality to conform to your desires. At this point, true freedom begins. When you act with life, not against it. When you stop reacting from fear and start responding with clarity. When your actions become expressions of wisdom, not control. But an inevitable question arises. If Wu Wei is the way, why is it so challenging for us to live it? Why is it so difficult to let go of control, to trust, to flow? The answer lies in the most insidious addiction of the modern mind, a cycle of tension, fear, and frustration that perpetuates the illusion that without control, everything will collapse. In the next segment, we'll dive deeper into this cycle. How do I implement this in my real life? In a world filled with deadlines, obligations, pressures, and unpredictable people, how do I live in Wu Wei? How do I act like water without being overwhelmed by chaos? The answer starts with a fundamental principle. Don't try to adopt everything at once. Begin where you are. Wisdom lies not in grand revolutions, but in small course corrections, those that gradually steer you back to center. Let's start with something tangible. Your relationships. How often have you tried to change someone, insisted they see what you see, understand as you understand, feel as you feel? How many conversations have turned into power struggles, not out of malice, but from a fear of losing control? Wu Wei teaches us to step out of that battlefield, to stop trying to mold others, and to focus on what we can truly influence: our listening, our attitude, our presence. Instead of reacting automatically, you observe. Instead of pushing, you embrace. And it's precisely here that something transformative happens. The other changes because you've altered the space in which the relationship unfolds. At work, the principle is similar. Western culture often glorifies productivity at any cost. But Watts would argue that if you constantly need to push yourself, perhaps you're going against your natural flow. Wu Wei isn't about shirking responsibilities. It's about discovering a balance between action and alignment. Instead of trying to control outcomes, you start to cultivate a rhythm. Instead of pursuing efficiency at any price, you seek coherence with your internal state. Interestingly, results often improve because they now originate from a more authentic place. On a more personal level, the emotional aspect, Wu Wei's application, might be the most impactful of all. How often have you tried to control your emotions as if they were internal adversaries? You feel anger and try to conceal it. You feel fear and attempt to suppress it. You feel sadness and try to drown it with distractions. But emotional suppression is the most harmful form of control, because what you deny intensifies. What you avoid dominates you. Wu Wei invites us to view emotions as waves. They rise, peak, break, and ebb. No emotion is permanent, yet every resisted emotion becomes a call. Instead of repressing, feel. Instead of judging, listen. Instead of combating what you feel, inquire, what is this trying to teach me? This shift in approach transforms pain into wisdom, discomfort into clarity. This way of living, more fluid, more mindful, more attuned to the genuine rhythm of life, doesn't imply giving up on action. It means acting with presence, not desperation. It means you continue to move, desitu, dream, and build. But you do so like water, adapting without losing yourself, shaping the world without breaking it. Now that you grasp how these principles can reshape your everyday life, there's one last piece missing. Up to now, we've discussed Wu Wei, the illusion of control, the wisdom of water, anxiety and frustration. But there's an invisible thread that weaves all these concepts together: our relationship with existence itself. In the final part, we'll reach the core of Alan Watts's message. Control is an illusion. We've arrived at the most uncomfortable and potentially most freeing point of this entire journey. The control you desperately seek doesn't shield you, it confines you. Everything you attempt to obsessively govern, the future, emotions, others, outcomes, actually holds you captive. Because at its core, absolute control isn't safety. It's fear masquerading as responsibility. Alan Watts has shown us that while you believe you're in charge, you are profoundly disconnected from the essence of life. You're trying to direct something that cannot be directed. You're demanding certainties from a universe that thrives on constant change. You're attempting to freeze a river. But life isn't a project to be executed. It's a flow to be experienced, a mystery to be lived, a movement to be followed. And when you try to reduce it to a plan, a schedule, a straight path, you lose what's most valuable about it: spontaneity, the beauty of the unexpected, the dance between chaos and harmony that makes everything pulse. The freedom you so deeply seek isn't found in control, it's found in surrender. Not a blind, passive, resigned surrender, but a conscious, lucid one. A daily choice to stop reacting with fear and start responding with presence, to stop trying to dominate the uncontrollable and start participating in it with intelligence, sensitivity, and trust. And perhaps now you understand that the problem was never your inability to control. The issue was believing that control was necessary. Watts stated that the separate self, this ego that tries to impose itself on life, is an illusion. You are not an observer commanding the world from the outside. You are the world itself, experiencing yourself. And the moment you recognize this, everything changes. You stop fighting and start flowing. You stop hardening and begin adapting. You stop demanding and start understanding. And at that precise point, something new emerges. A peace that doesn't depend on circumstances, a freedom that doesn't require control, a strength that doesn't need to conquer, because it all already exists in harmony with everything. Now, I want to ask you, in which area of your life do you feel you are trying to control everything the most? Drop a comment below, write, share. And if this video resonated with you, don't stop here. The next video is crucial. It continues this exploration. And if you're truly ready to be free, you need to see what comes next. I'll see you there.